Welcome back and thank you for staying with us. This is NTV Weekend Edition and welcome to Talk of the Nation. Now, over the last few weeks, dozens of Ugandans have been returned to the country after being stranded in the United Arab Emirates, with many having spent time in detention centers. The plight of these Ugandans has once more put the spotlight on the issue of migrant labor from Ugandans and the whole industry of labor externalization. Now, in studio tonight is Mariam Mwiza, a human rights activist who works mostly to bring attention to the suffering of Ugandans seeking employment abroad, especially in the Middle East. Good evening, Mariam, and thank you for joining us.
Thank you, and good evening too.
Okay, now today dozens of Ugandans returned from the United Arab Emirates with the help of government. Now these and many of these are some of whom have actually been detained or arrested, in the UAE. So would like you to help us understand what exactly or how these Ugandans actually ended up stranded or detained in the United Arab Emirates.
Okay, thank you very much. The reason as to why these Ugandans end up being detained, it's because for many times we've been seeing Ugandans crying, not actually only being detained, but even harassed at work in different forms. So it's because of a system called kafala system, which is a sponsorship. It's a sponsorship system, and it defines the relationship of between a migrant worker and an employer. So this system makes this person as a commodity or a slave. That means that this person, when she leaves or he leaves the country and goes to these Gulf states, this person will completely have nothing like right, because how it works, it controls the mobility of the migrant worker, and it gives the powers the powers to the employer. So the employer controls this migrant worker, and through this, by withholding their passports and having the control over the legal exit. So this is why they cannot just come, and even when they reach, the first thing to be done is that passports have to be confiscated. So it is the reason why.
Is that something legal? Is that a system that is accepted in the UAE?
Yeah, it is accepted in Gulf states, and I have a feeling that maybe some Ugandans, especially the girls or the group that I'm advocating for, are not aware of this. So, and to me, the recruiters are taking advantage, because most of these women and girls, some of them are illiterate. So it becomes harder for them to get such information, to go having this kind of knowledge. But then the question would be, are the recruiters aware of this system?
Oh yes, the go-betweens, are they aware?
Yes.
The ones that connect these girls or employees to those countries, are they aware of this system? And if they are aware, what have they done to probably help these employees?
Of course, they are aware, but for them, they are taking advantage of poor Ugandans who have no voice. Yeah, so desperate, and because it's a dubious business for them, it's about money. It's not about someone's life, because the moment you know that these girls or Ugandans are subjected into this kind of environment, which doesn't give them their rights as human beings, automatically they become slaves. And you know, when you're a slave, you have no right to say, let's say, I need to go back home, whether you're sick. We've worked on cases whereby someone is extremely sick. Forget about this one that they were just detained and they are in good condition, healthy conditions. But I'm talking about Ugandans who've been sick in hospital. They cannot come back. They can't come back
until their contract is expired, and
even when it is expired, because remember, I've told you about the kafala system, which gives the powers to the employer about even the legal exit. So it is this employer to choose whether to sign for you, because first of all, he bought you as a commodity, and once you bought as a commodity, if someone who sold the dress that you're putting on right now doesn't want even to know whether you wash it or you don't wash it, because it's your cloth, it's your property. Now this is what actually happens. So when we look at it, to me, it is not even, we shouldn't be even calling it labor externalization. It is more of a modern slavery. So even when you ask me and I say, okay, can they remain with their passports? It is very impossible until there is abolishment of kafala system.
Well, does this happen to those employees that have gone through the so-called companies, or is it for those that have gone through, informal ways? Because recently the ministry released a report saying that those people that go through the stresses or that go through torture are those that have gone through informal, lines. Is that true?
These are lies, because this affects every Ugandan, every African that goes to these Gulf states, whether you went through a registered company or you used a local agent. Because, for instance, in 4 years of my experience, we've worked on more than 500 Ugandans, but the biggest percentage was taken by labor companies that were registered. So few were just taken by agents. So this affects everyone. So if the minister said like that, maybe it's because she doesn't or he doesn't want this thing to be known, because the moment there is abolishment of kafala system, we shall see many losers, and this is what they don't want. They don't want to lose the business, because the business is it's lucrative. It has it benefits one side, right? So these migrant workers, the ones we are advocating for them, they are just being used. They are sold.
So does our government have a say in abolishing you call it the kafala system? Yes.
I highly doubt, because I've been longing to hear them having this or table it, because at one time we really wanted to see our government or Ministry of Labor giving or bringing the bilateral agreement to be revised, to know what exactly is in this bilateral agreement. It is something that cannot easily be discussed or be even debated about.
So what then needs to be done by government or civil society activists like you, to prevent this suffering of Ugandans? Then
to us, we have to, if you ask it that way, I may not get a proper answer, because activists like us, in most cases, we are seen as people that are against this. So it is hard for the government to come in and support us. We are always seen as we are fighting the business, but we are not. We are fighting against the condition, the working environment in the Gulf states. So it is hard even for the government to work with us. Okay, they can work with us, but to a little extent.
So then, in your view, what do you think the government needs to do to reduce or to mitigate the suffering?
To me, there are two things that the government has to do. One, if it cannot demand for the abolishment of the kafala system by the government, the Saudi Arabian government actually, because now it's the only country where we have the MOU, then if it can't do that, then maybe they can ban the labor externalization, because we are likely to keep losing many Ugandans, and this puts our generation at stake. So we cannot say, let us either demonstrate. We cannot say, okay, the government should monitor these migrant workers. They cannot monitor them because they have limited powers on them when they are the other side. So to me, two ways. If they cannot ask for or demand for the abolishment of the kafala system, then let the labor externalization be banned.
Okay, yeah, I've heard you say that it is the Saudi Arabia that has the MOU with the government of Uganda. So what happens to the Ugandans that travel to other countries, to the other countries in the Middle East?
They are on those ones. That's why you see they are suffering more than the other ones who are in Saudi Arabia, because the Ugandan government doesn't allow the labor export companies to recruit girls to countries like Qatar, Dubai. So these, most of them are either taken by local agents or companies that are for people maybe that are untouchables, because we keep wondering how do they then go. Yeah.
Well, the United Arab Emirates recently introduced a new requirement for all incoming, migrant workers from Uganda, especially. One of them being that they should, present police certificates, clearance, and all of that. Do you think this is a step to try, to end the suffering of Ugandans in the United Arab Emirates?
Yes, because now the UAE is stopping Ugandans from accessing them. Because once they say or they do like that, first of all, they're
stopping to access them in...
No, they are stopping Ugandans now to go to UAE. How? Because look at the number of girls or women or boys that are always taken to UAE. It is hard to find that one has an account that has more than 3 million Ugandan shillings. And nowadays that requirement...
Who, the employees?
Yeah. One is supposed to have 5 million on your account. Yes.
Before they travel?
Yes. Which is very, very, very difficult. So it was another way of saying, we don't want you, stay where you are. And so to me, or to us, some of us, it's one way of stopping Ugandans from going there. Because they know, I think the UAE knows, because there is this system which is already in place, and there is no how these Ugandans or Ugandans are going to go there and won't be affected by this, because it is in their system. You get my point? I
get you.
Yeah.
But then stopping Ugandans, many Ugandans travel to look for greener pastures, maybe because they have failed to find something to do, back home. Yes. So stopping them from traveling, don't you think you're bringing them back to a life of being unemployed, a life of poverty?
No, to me, I think now this should work as a waking up call for the government to create more employment opportunities for Ugandans, or else let them do the needful, because it is a waking up call for the government. And also to us youth, more especially, not to always think that maybe going abroad is the only how you can be a better person. So it is...
If that is where the opportunity is, I mean, they have seen their fellow youths or other people, flourish and do well in those countries. So they are also, made, employed or compelled to travel to work.
No, I don't think, because the biggest percentage that we see is the one that have they have stories, the heartbreaking stories. So I do not really think that they want to go, or they really want to go to UAE because they've seen successful stories. I speak this out of experience, because I'm longing to have at least 70% of Ugandans that have gone to those countries and that they are successful. I'm longing to have this percentage, 70 at least, or 50.
We don't have any?
I think we have like 20%.
Well, Mariam, as we wrap up this conversation, what will be your closing remarks?
I would call upon the government not to give us a deaf ear as the human rights activists. We are not the enemies of the government or the progress. We are just good Samaritans, the good Ugandans who would like to see that whether our Ugandans travel to UAE, whether they remain here, we need them in an environment that is very conducive, that can accommodate us all. And we shouldn't be segregated. And once there is an alarm that has been made, we shouldn't cover it up as one way of protecting the recruiter or the company, but we should come out and think that we have the citizens that we are meant to protect as the government.
All right, thank you so much. There you have it, Mariam Mwiza, a human rights activist who works mostly to bring attention to the suffering of Ugandans seeking employment abroad, especially in the Middle East. Well, thank you so much for joining us. We do take a break and return with news from the world of sport.